Senator Alyssa Slotkin joining me right now. She, of course, a member of the Homeland Security and Armed Services Committee. And thank you for racing to the camera after that unsuccessful vote. Give me your sense of how you felt going into the vote and if you were surprised by the outcome.
I mean, look, we've been taking this vote, the same exact vote, every single day, pretty much. And so in what I think is happening is that every single day the numbers are remaining consistent, right? It's not changing. We don't see a ton of Democrats, weakening in the knees and changing their votes. And so I think that's sending in a signal, as you heard in the last comments there. I do think it's enough. Like, we want to be able to sit in a room and have a negotiation. We don't need to negotiate through the press. I don't need to watch, Senator Thune on TV in order to find out what he says he's offering Democrats. Just get in a room like adults do, and we can have this, out. It's going to start with health care, and I think he's said he's open to that. Great. Adults get in a room, they throw out the press, no offense, they throw out Twitter, and they just get to working, and that's the point that isn't happening. And no matter what Mr. Thune offers, I'm sorry, I got to know that President Trump is on board, because it's not enough anymore to take the word of Speaker Johnson or Senator Thune, because they have to go check with the big guy in the White House. So to me, this negotiation is about, frankly, going with the White House and having that debate, that negotiation together, so that we're not just like twiddling our thumbs here when Thune gets overruled or Johnson gets overruled.
What do you think the chances are that President Trump would come down to Capitol Hill, or a select group of senators and leaders in the House would go to the White House and have this conversation?
I mean, I think that's very possible. I mean, you just coming back from a successful trip to the Middle East. He's the art of the deal guy. I think if the president wants to get this done, we can get it done in 72 hours. But we got to have a conversation with the real decider. And right now, because the Senate Republicans have shown zero backbone, zero interest in preserving this branch of government, and Speaker Johnson just hasn't even been to work for 28 straight days. He just literally isn't working. So let's negotiate with the guy who can get things done, and that's President Trump.
Is there a perception that the party risks looking unreasonable, unwilling to compromise? Again, we heard what Senator Thune said in the face of, tepid perhaps, but at least some offers from Republicans.
I mean, you can't put an offer on TV and say you've done your offer. Like, we just came from the Senate floor. He was 20 feet away from me, right? Have conversations like a real negotiation. Everyone watching, whatever work they're in, knows what a real negotiation is. It's the people with different sides come into a room like adults, like we train our kids to do, and they sit down and they say, how far apart are we? How do we bridge that gap? And I'm a big girl, right? I understand that the Democrats don't have the White House. We don't have the Senate. We don't have the House. So I'm not going to get everything I want. I've accepted that. That compromise is not a dirty word to me, but I do feel very strongly that they have precipitated a healthcare crisis in America. Every single person I know is getting a notice about an increase to their price of healthcare for January. So, yeah, I'm going to fight on behalf of people who are not having access to care. They can't afford it anymore. But that doesn't mean I accept that I'm going to win everything. But to go on TV and say we've made offers and without checking with Trump, who's their boss at this point, and without actually having a formal conversation, invite us into the offices. We're here in the Capitol. We're working. I just think it's a little too cute by half to say that we've made offers when you do it on camera.
I was going to use the word disingenuous. I think they both make sense here and are applicable. Let me ask you about your constituents with whom I'm sure you've been speaking. What kind of hardship is this presenting for them as they contemplate potentially skyrocketing health care costs?
I mean, look, I think there's few bills in our lives that are as personal in some way or another as health care. And certainly it has been for me, right? And, I've had my own family issues with the price of health care and not having access to health care. And when you tell a working family that they're paying $300 now for their insurance, but it's going to go up to $750 in January, when you tell them that, a small business owner in Ypsilanti, Michigan, that you provide health care for your 7 employees at your child care center, but now it's going up $460 a month for everybody, and they're having to really contemplate not providing insurance to their employees who they care about. I mean, you're talking about real life stuff. This isn't some amorphous, abstract policy conversation in Washington. This is about your pocketbook, your kids, your health care, your access to a long life. And so I think we put out a call, you know, and just said, hey, we keep hearing all these stories. Have you heard something from your healthcare provider? What notices have you got? We got like 500 letters, 500 plus letters in like 3 days. And I think the heart-wrenching thing about this is that, you know, for some people, this is a political fight in Washington, and you're going to cover it that way. But for a lot of people, this is life and death. This is health care for their kids who have some, you know, pre-existing condition. It's a real thing. And I think the people here have often lost sight of that. This is not some made-up thing. This is a health care crisis.
You know, to that point you just said about how some people will play this off as political, I'd like to play what Speaker Johnson said earlier today about this, about how the implication being it's not just about health care. Take a listen.
This is not a healthcare fight. This is a very simple funding fight. It always was. They have created a red herring. The subsidies don't expire until the end of the year. We were always planning to have the thoughtful debate and deliberation over that in the month of October and November before the subsidies expired. They know that. They grabbed that issue from the end of the year and pulled it back into September to try to pretend like that was the issue. It never was.
What do you say to the Speaker?
Like, talk to your own constituents in your own state. The letters, I didn't make those letters up. Those letters coming from Blue Cross or from private employer insurance, I mean, they're open. These companies are open. The big, beautiful bill passed on July 4th because of Speaker Johnson and the rest of them up here. It precipitated a place where the hospitals said, uh-oh, people are going to have less insurance. I got to make up the difference. I got to make up my costs. We just got to charge people with private employer for provided insurance more money in order to make our bills work. And then those companies turn around and raise rates for everyone who has private employer provided insurance. It's a math problem, and the notices are not anyone's fiction. And if he can't understand that, he hasn't talked to a real person in a real long time. 28 days he's been gone from the House. I thought he would have some time to talk to some people. What do you say to that mom in Ypsilanti who can't afford insurance anymore? Just what do you say to them? Do you say, this isn't a real crisis? That letter you got is fake? It's insulting to people. People know their own pocketbooks, they know their kids, and they know when politicians are being damn politicians.
Let me pivot to what's happening later this afternoon as we expect a vote on a Republican measure to fund the Pentagon. That includes money to make sure the troops keep getting paid. You're on the Armed Services Committee. What are you going to do? Are you going to vote for it?
Well, honestly, this is another one of those things where we barely know what we're voting on. Mr. Thune has brought over the House version of the Pentagon budget, not the Senate version that his own members, his own chairman, negotiated. We don't know exactly what he's going to put forward at 2:15. So I got to know what I'm voting on. I'm one of those people who's like, I trust but verify. I'd like to see what I'm voting on. The House version of that bill is not a good version. It's just not. I'm on the Senate Armed Services Committee. I voted proudly for the Pentagon budget last week through the committee I sit on, but I got to see what version we're talking about. And this idea that somehow we're just going to trust these guys, anyone who trusts Mr. Thune at this point, it is like, I got a bridge I want to sell you. I mean, it's just, they can't make moves without President Trump. So I wish that we were in an environment where my Republican colleagues would just tell us, here's what we're doing. Here's why we think it will get us to a better place. Here's how we're ready to negotiate. And I am all in. I'm from a state that expects me to be sitting down and negotiating, and I'm ready to do that at any moment.
Indeed you are. You are from Michigan. Senator Alyssa Slotkin, thank you so much for the conversation. Appreciate it.